Hey, Internet. Thanksgiving Day is upon us, or as it's referred to by the European colonizers, break yourself, fools. Sorry, I wasn't able to stream this on Twitter, so I don't call it X. It says X is not available. X is available. So I'm practicing X's ideology in current day and time. But that's neither here nor there. Now, it's one of those things that perplexes me how America is the only country to celebrate Thanksgiving, even though we have a very similar foundation story to a lot of places. Like, you look at Israel, they were clearly made in our image, but we even have the same daddy. England, bunch of uh, nepotistic, incestuous pedophiles, like the ones who run our nation. They decided to branch out. Instead of just robbing people domestically, they got some of the poor people who were under them to go and kill other poor people to steal more shit, bring more people into the empire. Um, First victims of the colonizers were the domestic population. You know, you look at England, they had like orphan children catching chimney sweep cancer. That's when you get soot in the folds of your scrotum because they didn't have parents. They'd send them in these chimneys to clean up, and then they'd be getting cancer, dying left and right. And if they survived, they would join the Navy. And, you know, you look at most of my family, including they tried to get this. My dad was trying to get me recruited into the military too. Um, but yeah, you know, if you want to get education, you want to get a house, like join the military. And it's like, you know, my family is a bunch of poor black people, and we have some people who really accelerated. I feel real bad because those are the most brainwashed, lost people. I mean, how can you not be brainwashed, continuing a system that was not made for you and upholding it for the crooks who wouldn't commit the crimes themselves? They just benefit from it. They give you a small percentage of it. So, you know, it's just like right now we've internalized a lot of these fucked up messages. You know, and then people talk about loving when I see, oh, the black culture is so violent. No, American culture is violent. The most violent black people I know are the ones who internalized American culture. They were trained by the government. Those are the violent people. It's not the black people. It's the dominating culture that, you know, that will destroy anything that is homegrown, anything that's organic. It gets terminated, and then it gets co-opted. So yeah, it is, that's why I think we need to stop celebrating this Turkey Day. Celebrate this shit. You're a jive turkey. This is not this is not benefiting you. These are the motherfuckers who robbed everybody. Now they're saying be thankful for what you got. Um, I think we need to have uh, a confiscation day. That's when the people who come from nothing, they rob that generational wealth of the slave traders. So you got your Bill Gates, your or any of the families, your Rothschilds, your Rockefellers, people who think they're above the law. They have enough money to buy up governments. They get robbed. How about we have a day where instead of your family coming together to get turkey and get the itis, get sleepy, you guys come together, be thankful for each other. Yes, appreciate one another, and then you bring in your broader family of your community. Then y'all decide who's going to be the lookout. Y'all break into the houses of the richest people, and y'all just steal all their shit, that generational wealth. If they don't have liquid shit, you hold them for ransom. Uh, you use their biometrics, go and confiscate their whatever stocks they may have. Just break they shit. Just take all that shit. Um, it's yours anyway. Because when you look at billionaires, especially these ridiculously rich 100 billionaire, they don't. None of them get that money without stealing it, without government subsidies. So you just really just taking your money back. So it's a celebration of the reconfiscation. They robbed you, take their shit back. It's the same people who want you to celebrate fucking Indiana Jones for going in and robbing a bunch of brown people. Now we celebrate the real heroes. The brown people taking their shit back from uh, the, the museum. Let's not forget Indiana Jones. He was OSS. OSS became CIA, and that's Nazis. CIA is filled with Nazis. They love Nazis. That's why the only people who appreciated Indiana Jones's work were Nazis. So they were in the same line of work. It was like, I know how hard it is to rob these motherfuckers because we do it too. Nazis, same birds of a feather and whatnot. Then get the notification from Rumble. Well, I'll talk to Rumble CEO, and that's one of the people who we should be robbing. Peter Thiel. He's one of the founders of Rumble. I don't know if he's the CEO now, but yeah, he's one of those evil motherfuckers. He's in charge of Palantir. We could rob him. I show y'all. I don't want to show off the weaponry right now, but y'all do it. Anybody, if you got live in a nation where you just run by a bunch of uppity colonizers telling you to pull yourself up by your bootstraps as they rob you of your boots and your straps and take the food from your family and poison whatever is left. If you got any of that shit, we need to have that confiscation day. Those kids, some were orphans or misplaced. Well, I mean, yeah. We get into how they became orphans because they originally became orphans because they sent their parents off to die over dumb shit too. Um, it's just like we've been run. Basically, we're a society that's been handed down from the reins of psychopath to psychopathic family member, and it's a society so easy to run. An idiot could do it. You can, and that's true because we're always run by idiots. Not just saying Trump, saying we've never had a good president, we've never had good leadership. Someone came in with noble intentions, the system corrupted them. So, and it's just like it was I was watching what is it, Gladiator 2, and Denzel had a line. He was like, the dream of the Roman is that the slave doesn't desire freedom, but the slave just wants another slave, right? And that's where we are. It's just no one wants to be free. We just want someone under us. It's the pedagogy of the oppressed. So, I don't want actual freedom. I just want to have the kind of power someone has over me right now over someone else. And that's fucked up. But that's where a lot of people are. That's what we're conditioned to think like. Nate's back. You're gosh darn tootin' he is. How do you feel about the Indigenous Peoples Day as opposed to Thanksgiving? Well, Indigenous Peoples Day, I thought that was to take over Columbus Day. But yeah, I'm all for celebrating Indigenous people, but it's not really bringing justice. It's not solving the issue because the issue was the genocide, the theft, rape, and pillaging of the land. So if you want justice, we need to go beyond the indigenous people. This is their land. Sure. Saying it is one thing. They'll probably have land acknowledgements after they genocide all the Palestinians. That's what it's looking like Israel is setting up to do. But I'm talking about we need to bring justice. We talk. I want to see the generational wealth that stole from this nation originally, that sent over the poor peasants of Europe to have to colonize this shit so they can avoid debtors' prisons. Um, the real people in charge and the families that they handed the reins of power down to, they need to be brought to justice. You know, anybody who has enough money to buy a lobbyist, like your Elon Musk, this motherfucker is not even from this country, and he's getting subsidies that are supposed to go to American businesses. He's making hundreds of billions of dollars taking subsidies that should be going to American. And if you take any subsidies, it shouldn't be like going to a board of corrupt motherfuckers on the corporation who could buy more influence and buy more lobbyists to fuck over a larger group of people to make sure the wealth goes into a smaller insulated set of hands. If you take any subsidies, that should be all the money should only go to worker-owned businesses. If you have $1 billion and you take any government subsidies, you should be locked up automatically. That should be just the automatic. You're a billionaire. You already have more money than you could spend, and you're continuing to take subsidies while we have a homelessness epidemic, and you're making it worse. That's lock them up. We don't even need to wait for the Epstein files. We know they're on it. They gotta be on it. They're that worthless where they need $100 billion. They're definitely not only on the new Epstein files. It's just the OG shit before Epstein was Epstein, and we know that these motherfuckers are sex traffickers. Because for you to feel like you need that kind of money, something's wrong with you mentally, and then for you to steal it from people, it's just like that's a criminal act, And if you're a millionaire and you're taking subsidies, that's criminal investigation. I would say you're locked up automatically, but we can make that a democratic pursuit where we discuss what happens to them. Most things had no price before someone put a price on it. Well, I mean, the commodification of everything has destroyed the value of all on this planet. People have a distorted view of everything's worth. Rothschild in their mind. Yeah, of course. It just reminds me, I was out. Friend took me to a bar, and it was these rowdy motherfuckers, right? And they had like this weird fucking tan, like it was like or weird sunburn. It was all patchy and shit. And I noticed like a little accent, and I was like, I feel like those are some other fucking Boers. Before they even like approached me, then one of them was like started speaking Dutch to me, like he was expecting me to understand. Like motherfucker sounded like he was using a spell, and I was like, "What?" He was like, "I thought you were Dutch." They got that weird accent. I can't even do it right. And he thought I was Dutch because I was wearing all this African shit, and he associated African garb with Dutch shit because the Dutch were over in Africa stealing their shit and making claims that everything that they discovered in Africa was originally white people, just like what they're doing in Israel. Let's not forget, Israel is not South. It's not the Middle East. It's Africa, northeastern Africa. Used to be Kemet, the land of the black. Then a bunch of white people were like, "Ooh, this is so fancy. We want to take the credit for all of the historical shit that they did." It was Kemet was all. It also included Egypt and Sudan and Jordan. All these ancient lands that expanded, different periods of time. It was Hyksos. It didn't become Egypt until white people discovered it. And let's not forget, the only reason we acknowledge Greece and Rome as like these amazing civilizations, because the Greeks were the first to rediscover Africa. Then Rome came and stole it. They corrupted the Greeks. They killed Alexander the Great, uh, pillaged everything. They did all kinds of fucked up shit. Kicked the people of the Dogon tribe. You know, that's the original Egyptians. Made them move, tortured them. They ended up moving down to Mali area, and then of course Rome plunged Europe into a dark age for about 500 years. Then the people of the Dogon tribe, they went back to Egypt or back to Europe, but by then they were known as the Moors. Brought civilization back, and then they were rewarded by being enslaved once white people discovered Chinese weaponry. So it's a long history, but it's just the history basically is a bunch of worthless, good for nothing, entitled sacks of garbage, getting a bunch of poor people to do their bidding, and I view it like locusts. There's no difference between locusts and grasshoppers, same species. Only difference, the locusts they lack the resources, so they go into a different mode where they're just like they're hyper. They're stealing. They're aggressive. They're dangerous, right? Instead of like pacing themselves, like they just consume as much as possible, and then move on to the next, and then consume, destroying, right? When you take something's resources, like other people, you go to Africa, it's full of resources. No one's you're not naturally inclined to have the locust mindset. You know, more grasshoppers, right? But then once you have locusts in control of society who are stealing from you, and then if you don't control the resources, it will be used to control you. So we have a bunch of locusts in control of our resources, turning us into locusts. That's why when you see like certain people below a certain income level raised in a poisonous ideology, yeah, they get turned against each other. Crab in a barrel mentality. That's where that is derived from. Until we can wake up from that, you know, not Thanksgiving. Thanksgiving is just thanks for robbing me. You know, like the reason, there's no real genocide where they wipe out all of any one group of people, is because they always need these motherfuckers. If you go to the Microsoft, Google campuses, all of the engineers come from the shithole countries. They call it brain drain when your Western countries take their smart populace, because we raise other countries like they're raised from a young age how to grow their own food, how to take care of themselves, using natural medicines and all this shit. Out in America, motherfuckers don't even know their gender. Like we're taking gender study classes, trying to figure this shit out. It's like, oh, my pronouns are they, them, thou, thine, we, us. It's confused. Motherfuckers are confused as shit. Raised backwards from the cradle to the grave. That's why it's just like, yeah, we are dumber than average. Most of money in America is numbers on the screen, not much paper miner. I mean, yeah, money has no value. It's a fire economy: finance, insurance, real estate. Right? That's how you know your economy is in trouble. People aren't creating anything of value. They're just moving ones and zeros on the screen, and their money's going up, and no one benefits from anything they've done. You gotta look at it like we should have a, what is it, Walking Dead economy. Walking Dead, you have any apocalyptic event happen. Who's going to be the first people you need? You're going to be looking for bankers and CEOs. You're going to be looking for those worthless people who you make fun of who make your food, who bring you blankets and all that shit, who work retail? Is it going to be insurance agents? We need insurance, or we need food. What is it going to be? What is useful to you, right? And it's crazy. The most necessary, the most essential employees, they get paid the least, and the most worthless, they get paid the most. And it's just like, I mean, these billionaires. You think they're like any of these motherfuckers who are in charge, the tech bros, as they have been colorfully coined. You think any of these motherfuckers actually are working on the shit that they're getting rich off of? No, they're rubbing elbows with politicians to get policy passed that benefits whatever they're patented. You know, and it's just like the patents don't reflect. If you work at Microsoft, you work at Google, everything you make is not your own. It gets patented by the company you work for. And shit, before it even gets to that point, you have ARPA, which became DARPA. They created the internet. Um, like all of the technology around the devices you use on the internet, like your touch screen, your capacitive touch screen, all that shit. It was created by the government, and then people who are closely connected to the government, they could buy the patents to shit they didn't make, and then they could put their competition out of business. That we are talking about government subsidized monopolies. That's why we have less choice in America than anything anywhere else. We're told this is the best system is good capitalism. No, it's the corporation should be abolished. It shouldn't exist. That's why we need confiscation day to just go, because it's a long, arduous process to bring justice to these corporations. However, if we take and this should be a worldwide thing, not just in the America, because right now we're so alone. We got Thanksgiving and we celebrate it by ourselves. But if worldwide we had our confiscation day, we can come together with other nations and we can just go into these corporations, rob them blind, take our shit back, and bring them to justice. I mean, right now we're talking about going to war with Russia. They unveiled a new, extremely high speed missile incapable of being stopped by any of our technology. Right? They could throw on a nuclear warhead, and that's the end of America. It's nothing we can do unless we have a confiscation day, and during that day, we take all of the people who were propping up the Nazis in the Ukraine, same people who were killing off kids in Gaza, the Ashkenazis, and we like, see these war criminals. We know you hate them. We don't like them either, and we give them to like here, Iran. You have these war criminals. Russia, you get these war criminals. Venezuela, you get these war criminals, and you guys do what you want to do with them. We just want peace. Give us some of that BRICS money. We don't want the slave traders. Give us some new colorful currency, and we'll work in cooperation with y'all. It's the only way to bring peace. Civilizations have fallen from not being able to decide simple things and end up fighting. This is one thing I've noticed in my travels on a personal level. Most people, they hate all corporations. No one. When I say a corporation should not be able to own property, nobody really argues against it, except for people who are like secretly connected to these corporations that own all the property, which I've run into a few. LA and Seattle, they got some of those motherfuckers. This is how it was a cat. He was Redmond. That's like right by that Bill Gates money. Probably one of Bill Gates' nephews. Motherfucker was talking about he was, man. I hate when people start talking about how much rent is and like, I'm like, how much do you pay for rent? Like, my parents help me out with that kind of shit. So you don't have to work or anything, parents. So that's why you don't think about rent. You're like, yeah, but I'm from the struggle. If I really need money, like for a car or an investment property, if I need a few $1,000,000 for an apartment complex, I have to present something to my dad, but that's everybody. I'm sure if you want to borrow 10 or 20 million, you got to put together some kind of a presentation. Just, and it's just like, it's such a disconnect from reality, the reality of most people for certain people. But most people outside of that small clique of really just assholes. Oh, and then there's also the fucking, um, if you guys remember the time I ran into the Saudi Arabian royalty, and they were just showing that their money because they knew I didn't have money, because they were like, no money, nothing, because they were like funding YouTube, and we were at a YouTube event, so they knew they had more money than anybody in the room there. Absurd. But outside of those people, most people can easily say, no, corporation, there's no reason they should own money. I mean, should be able to own property. I mean, they shouldn't own residential property because we should have the people who live in that house owning it. And when it comes to businesses, uh, the workers should own it, especially if they're getting government subsidies. So, but you don't see policy that reflects that common sense position yet, until we put the fear of the people in them. That's why we got to have this confiscation day. To get together with your family, get fuel up on all the nutrients, and instead of getting the itis, kidnap a billionaire, hold them for hostage, send them off to a third world country to be held in one of their prisons. Will they be tortured? I don't know. It's not going to be your problem after you bring them to justice. I'm not going to be losing sweat over it. If you could send over Donald Trump, Joe Biden, Democrat, Republican, all the same to me. Just bring them to justice, motherfucker. Lower the likelihood of nuclear war. People don't need greed and gluttony, but some are more simple beings. Well, it's more than enough on this planet for everyone's needs, but not enough for everyone's greed. So when we start talking about the greed of these motherfuckers, like, why do we even try? If you have more than $1 billion and that's not enough for you, like, you're still. Maybe I need to do a rewind of this movie, maybe to help people understand. But it's a movie called Queen of Versailles, and it's about a dude who's building the world's largest house. It was a documentary. He thought it was going to make him look good because it's like he was a timeshare mogul. He was connected with the Bushes and the Trumps and all these people. And he had this whole thing where he was like talking about his wife. He was like, as soon as she turns 40, I'm dropping her for two 20-year-olds. He would meet his wives through like he would be hosting these beauty queen competitions. He'd be like, hey, you want to win? Come on, show me how much you want to win. And then the winners would somehow magically end up married to him. And yeah, but all he did, he had more money than he could ever spend. Didn't spend any time with his kids. The kids all resented him. He would just be in his room trying to figure out how to make more money. It's like he never was like, okay, I got $12 billion. You know what? I'm gonna throw a ball with one of my kids, show them that I'm not just consumed with money. No, all his kids hated him, um, because that's all he did was just obsess over money. And yeah, I think that's all they're doing is comparing the amount of zeros they have in their bank to the next billionaire on their block. Um, and they don't see, like, motherfucker, you can live off the interest of your money very comfortably. Like he was doing shit. He was he would get like these poor women to be his wives who never seen that kind of money, and like she would just go and buy her kids more toys than they would ever play with. They'd be donating toys the kids never even knew they had, bikes and all this shit. And it was just like uh, uh yeah, there was no amount of material goods that could satiate the holes in their souls. um but they were continuing to get all these subsidies, buying up politicians to make more money, and acting as if like that was going to do anything to fulfill them, but they were never going to be fulfilled. So why are we continuing to give them our money while we suffer and they have more money than they can do anything with? So let's just stop playing the game. Go and rob them. Just rob them. I'm not saying you got to use a weapon. You can just show up with just hordes of people, surround them, tie them up, call up the embassy of Cuba or any of the official state enemies, and just send them over there. They'll do something with them. You don't even have to like be the violent person. Like send them to Gaza. Make them like be Uber Eats delivery drivers out there. See the carnage that they got profited off of. Listen, if y'all need help, hit me up. I'll pay for the airfare ticket myself. I'm down for that holiday. Well, let's make it happen. Let's stop talking about it, Captain. I know the indigenous folks is down with it. Um, cheap viewers on Streambo. Okay, it looks like an ad. Um, should have popped him in his shit right there. Indubitably. People don't need agreement, but yeah. No one's going to be here forever, but they believe so much in their black magic and demonized Santeria. Well, I don't practice Santeria. I ain't got no crystal ball. And I don't know that song all that well. But I'll sing it all. But yeah. So yeah, I I can put together little packages. We can get some twine, maybe some duct tape, gaff tape. I got gaff. I've been stealing all kinds of gaff tape from some pretty nefarious companies. So I could like put together a package. We call it a confiscation day package, and I got some zip ties. Um, I got a sword, some sabers. I got lightsabers, regular. Um, we just need to figure out the logistics of it. Um, but we definitely got to get this shit popping. I don't want y'all to just come together, eat a bunch of turkey, pass out, and then just go fight each other for Black Friday. We need to end that. Stop fighting each other. Stop fighting other poor people for discounts. If y'all going to be doing some shit that can get you arrested, go rob Walmart. Steal the TV. Don't, instead of getting a felony and then paying a discounted price, just commit a misdemeanor and just get a free TV. And then there's not a poor person with a hospital bill. Let's just be smart about this. We need to advance our tactics. Same LOL. I'm agnostic. The Zionists do what they do, but Santeria isn't allowed. Well, you can't have a competition. This is why you look at somewhere like out in Britain. they're doing all this crackdown, locking up thousands of people over social media posts because the empire is so fragile that just an idea that contradicts their narrative can destroy it, can blow it up. Um, so when we start talking about like the religion, I was raised Christian, raised in Christianity, default religion in America. It's like that U2 album that nobody wanted that they put on your phone anyway. Like, no, I don't want that. But it's just like they gave it to you. But that's the bastardization of shit that they learned in Africa. Because you first Christians in Western civilization was in Constantine's Rome. Now, what Constantine was an evil motherfucker, right? Piece of garbage. But he forced Christianity onto the Roman people, even though the Romans were the bad guys in the book. But it was like this was around the time they were burning the Library of Antiquities, which they called the Library of Alexandria, because it was named after Alexander, even though it existed for many millennia before Greeks or Romans came out of the caves. But they burned all that shit. They came up with like a book that's somewhat reflected some of the ideas, across Babylonian, Kemetic, other ancient civilizations. You look at like the symbols they took. They plagiarized the Ankh, whereas the Ankh was something that was carried by the gods, worn by the gods, symbol of life. Nikola Tesla went into the tombs of the pharaohs. He got his idea for infinite energy from the Ankh-Jet. His energy oscillator was based on it. But the gods wore this shit. Only time the Christian God was seen with a cross, he was being killed on it. And then people wear that cross, even though it's just a sign that if you have someone who's willing to go against the state will kill them. Right? In America, we were built in that image. That's why we have COINTELPRO, where it's like the stated purpose was to go after the Black Messiah. And then they killed multiple Black Messiahs. So it's like the cross is celebrating the death, where this is the key to life. So it just like the original swastika was all about peace and love. It was similarly flipped by Hitler. They called it the hooked cross, and it's just like they took its meaning and flipped it on its head, because that's what the West does. It's all about celebrating violence, death, destruction, because the societies they build are on genocide and rape and pillaging. Um, that's why it's just like you gotta. They haven't experienced it. They've only benefited from it. That's why we need this confiscation day to really just hit home, so they understand what it's like to just to not benefit from the theft and the rape and destruction. To like kind of see it, be able to start to see the downside of it. When the people start confiscating what was theirs back and send your ass to Iraq or Iran or Palestine, Jordan, Sudan, any of these nations in turmoil because of your greed and avarice. I want to see it. Let's turn it into it. Could we like film it? It doesn't that sound like some good? I haven't watched reality TV in years, but I'll start again for that kind of shit. Whatever didn't go with their ideology, they got rid of. Yeah, no sin worse than the other. I'm just saying the hypocrisy, indubitably. What up, Nate? Financial holidays are hard to split from. Well, see, and this is the whole thing. because we start getting into these holidays, Christmas, Kwanzaa. They start chewing into them pockets. You go broke like a motherfucker. But if we have uh confiscation day right before Christmas, that'll recharge your pockets. Because let's just say you get a group of 400 people, and y'all go after one billionaire. Let's say Elon Musk, Larry Ellison. They both have over 400 million or 400 billion. So you take those 400 people, which is easy to subdue someone like an Elon Musk, even if he had one of his electric vehicles. You know, he had one of the Tesla trucks. Y'all could still surround him, figure out a way to subdue him. Y'all get him, bring him to justice, send him over to South Africa, because you know they don't fuck with him. He was saying that he had this whole thing where he was saying that South Africans are racist because they wouldn't allow him to do what he's doing in America out there. They wouldn't give him the same privileges that he's getting out here by stealing our money. But we send him to South Africa where he has to atone for stealing all their emeralds. That's how him and his family got their money, right? They bring him to justice. All his money gets liquidated. You and your 400 homies, y'all have over $1 billion a piece after his money gets liquidated. Can you figure out a way to survive off of $1 billion? I don't know. That doesn't sound like enough. Because you know, if he needs 400 billion, you probably need at least 20. I don't know. That's only, what is it, $50 million a year on the interest. You know, who could live off of that? Probably not you. Probably not you. If you watching this video, you got some expensive taste. Believe it, please. Africanos. Physically surrounding him would cause them to call the National Guard. That nigga got money. We would have to do it legally. That African got money. Well, see, and this is the whole thing. Once you bring them to justice, right? Once we confiscate all that money and liquidate all that money, make them broke, then you'll have the money. You could buy up whatever politician. This is why I say, poor people, y'all need to get lobbyists. You just need to just figure out, pay, you know, a couple $1 million, buy up a senator, a couple congressmen. Then you just pass policies that give more of the public's money to you. That's all they did. Just take that money, buy up some political connection, get more money. That's what we need to do. So we confiscate their shit, steal our shit back, then we buy up the politicians to work for us. Or we can do like we can get the politicians too, bring them to justice. I mean, let's face it, we're gonna have to do that. For us to stop the nuclear war, we got to send some of these politicians to the countries that they've been going to war with. They've been killing the civilians. It's not even a war. They've been genociding. So, like, you know, you can send your Nancy Pelosi's and Chuck Schumer's to Iraq. And I mean, I want to see it too. I want to see them in a Baghdadian prison. George Bush, we already missed the opportunity to send Dick Cheney to a prison in Baghdad. We got a little time to get George Bush Jr. out there. His dad's gone. Like the window is closing. Are we gonna let them die of natural causes before they get brought to justice? Not me. I'm gonna do my part. I'm like waiting to see one of them in person. Shit, with all the security and whatnot. I mean, I can probably convince the security. Let me get y'all just look the other way. I'm just going. The system is messed up. Whatever Trump may have did, with Clinton. Man, don't talk about that shit. This is where y'all get me fucked up. Trump, he's a very courteous person. Very courteous. I have some good friends. I have friends that I've known for decades. None of them just suck my dick on an island. None. I mean, none of the dudes. And for Trump to show that kind of kindness, I feel like we should acknowledge it. I mean, like Barack Obama, he fucked all kinds of Americans, but he didn't suck anybody's dick on the island that I know of. So Trump, say what you will about the man, but I heard he jiggles the balls. And I'm just going to leave it at that. When John F. Kennedy was a senator, he went to Cuba and did what American politicians do, and they tried to compromise him on video. Yeah, because they cannot have a good example. Cuba, to this day, they have more doctors per capita than any other nation. And a lot of Americans go there for free healthcare. They have a cancer vaccine that Americans go there for. But we provide more transgender surgery for children. So America's number one. That's how I know so many movements get co-opted, because it's a lot of, back before 2020, back in, let's say up until 2019, I can go to an event and it'll be like one of the things that they would always be demanding: healthcare for all. Healthcare for all. We got to have healthcare for all. It's a demand. Bernie Sanders, he popularized it. People have been saying it for years, but like he popularized it in a way that we haven't seen nationwide. So it was like healthcare for all. It was like something I heard, and I was like, yeah, I can get behind it. Everybody can get behind it. Especially if you have experienced the healthcare system in the country. Then, after COVID, the best time to have healthcare for all, right? A lot of these organizations like DSA, who used to say healthcare for all, they started saying mandatory vaccination. Not only did they start saying it, that you had to have proof of a vaccination to be able to show up at one of their events to organize. That's how I knew they were corrupted. It's like healthcare for all to mandatory vaccinations, not the same shit. We were talking about putting these companies out of business because the profit model that they have is disgusting, right? It's just perverse. It's the wrong thing that we should be fighting for. So it's like we should be putting them out of business. Then all of a sudden, nope, mandatory vaccination is putting guaranteed money in their hands. Whether you want their shot or not, they can choose to inject into you whatever the fuck they want, right? And then after a little bit of COVID, people start seeing like family members like mine having strokes. I had multiple families have loved ones having strokes, including cousins who were only in their 30s, which I don't remember that ever happening before. So after that shit started happening, then I started noticing, we have to have protection for trans kids. We have to have affirmative care for trans children, which is like, what the fuck are you talking about? Trans children. And, this was around the time I was going back to school, and they were, we would start the class. My pronouns are my pronoun. It's just like, you had kids who were just like raised in this insanity, normalizing this kind of shit from a young age. My pronoun, they're thinking about their pronouns before they even hit puberty. You don't know what the fuck you are. Then you have these drugs and surgeries to prevent them from hitting puberty. And I think this shit is sicker and is deeper than just the surface level, just like what the fuck is going on. Because Um, you look at what happens when you go through puberty. When I went through puberty, I became a huge problem for my dad, right? The authoritative force in my life started to kick up dust, became just a troublemaker. Uh, uh, and I think all of this uh, protection for trans kids shit is to prevent kids from having that surge of hormones and becoming a problem for the system, because you give them the information that they have access to now, and you give them all the hormones, and instead of like becoming a problem for the people who look after them and love them and care about them, they'll become a problem for the system that is now encouraging them to take these drugs that prevent them from having puberty. So, it, how factual is that? I mean, if you ask me, it all adds up. I don't know. You could tell me your opinion. Um, None of the dudes. Trump need an employee evaluation. He has several. Maybe most politicians' propaganda go on in many directions. Yes. Trump did one thing right. He declassified the alien stuff. Well, a lot of it. Man, a lot of distraction. Trump, he said he was going to declassify a lot more shit. I mean, but then the more salacious shit he was a part of. Talking about Epstein. We're gonna get all the files on that shit. He realized, oh shit, I'm documented in this motherfucker. I'm with him a lot, so we can't do that. The first list was posted with Tom Hanks on it. Probably was a real list. Well, Tom Hanks, it was a book. Was it some chick with an iCarly or something? I don't know the show that, not Iggy Azalea. What's the other annoying white chick who really can't sing, but she was everywhere? Oh God. She did a movie recently. She had, oh God, I forget her name. But it was I think it was the iCarly girl was talking about how this chick who ended up being like a huge celebrity, even though she was just like a co-star, she was partying with Tom Hanks, and she like had like a few nights with Tom Hanks and his crew, and then all of a sudden she was everywhere. Uh, it's just she's just so forgettable. I only remember the story because it was just it just kind of reminded me of like all of the rewinds I would do, because the rewinds I would do a lot of shows that had uh kids who were entering in secret packs with adults, like your teen, like what is it, your Power Rangers and VR Troopers and all these motherfuckers were, or was it tattooed teenage kids from Beverly Hills or whatever the fuck. It was like these inappropriate relationships with kids and adults. And I was like, that seems pretty molestery. And then I remember it was a while ago, before all the Epstein stuff became super publicly known. Someone was like, man, you just seem to notice a lot of pedophilia in these kinds of shows. Is something wrong with you? And then it's like, I don't think it's wrong with me. I think it's something wrong with the people who make this shit. And then, after that, it was Weinstein was discovered, Epstein was discovered. It was like all these pedophilia rings were uncovered, and then the iCarly chick wrote a book talking about her time in Nickelodeon. Oh, and then the first Coke party I had ever been to was with people I met through friends, and it was at someone who was a writer or producer for Witches of Waverly Place, and they had like a drug room. It was a coke room. It was a weed room, an alcohol room, a whippet room. I didn't even smoke weed at the time. I was just looking for alcohol. I thought it was just gonna be like drinking. We showed up. It was someone who was on the the Tool Academy, which is like a show based on people being tools. And it was just the craziest experience. But it was like, yeah, all of these kid shows, all of these motherfuckers, they're perverts. Um, and someone tried to call me out for acknowledging it in rewinds, and yeah, and then I was only validated, a little bit later. But that's neither here nor there. I don't want to be right. I want to be effective. If I was effective, these motherfuckers would have been locked up a while ago. Those rewinds were comedy, but it made sense at the time. The Power Rangers one, when the dad touches the ooze and leaves the voiceover, is funny. Greatly appreciated. Thank you. Thank you. Release the list. I will. The list of rewinds. They're over at Netflix.net. Trump and Putin also need a joint sale. I wouldn't put Putin in a cell with any American leadership. People in Russia actually like Putin. What I really want to see, I don't know who's keeping up with what's going on in Nepal, but they had this opposition to their nepo babies. The people who the offspring of their politicians who are rich as fuck, flaunting their wealth while everyone else was suffering. They got so mad at that, they started burning shit down, and then they started frog marching their politicians out, throwing shit at them. That I didn't say kill them. They were throwing shit at them, humiliating them, and figuring out how to actually democratically elect people who deserve to be in office. And that's where I want us to be. I don't want to kill Hillary Clinton, Bill Clinton, Joe Biden, Kamala Harris, Barack Obama, Donald Trump. I don't want to kill them. I want to have a discussion with them. I want them to understand that the people hate them. I want us to just come together and not be like clapping while they say a bunch of nonsense and gibberish. I want to throw shit at them. Holy shnikes. I guess my battery's about to die. But fudge sickle. But yeah, I definitely just want to I want to see their face when justice sets in, and they can't fake the funk anymore. And then like I said, it should be a confiscation day tradition. We send them off to a third world country to face justice. We don't have to do it. We don't have to bring back the death penalty for these motherfuckers. And so in some cases, we don't have to. The death penalty was never taken away, but we can get rid of our death penalty and then just send them off to another country that may or may not have a death penalty for them, or they may enact it just for them specifically because of the genocide that they enabled. But that's for them to decide, The military budget for the U.S. is probably to counter a major revolt. It's definitely to counter a major revolt. I remember when the Canadian truckers were being vilified, their money was taken, all that shit. And then but they were successful in some ways because they were galvanizing the population. There was an American trucker movement that was supposed to go from California to Washington. And as the people were getting ready for that shit, the White House was being fortified. This is Joe Biden's White House. They were putting all these reinforcements for when the people showed up and tried to hold them accountable. And it just reminded me of Chris Hedges when he was talking about the Nixon White House and how it was the autobiography of the butcher of Cambodia, where he was talking about how in 1971 May Day 1971, that was the largest civil disobedience movement in America to date. It was like everybody came out into the streets. And then this is around the time they arrested everybody. Like, you didn't even have to be a part of the movement. They were just arresting anybody who was outside. But when the people were demonstrating their power, the White House had a bunch of buses surrounding it so the people couldn't get through. But the people kept knocking the buses and spreading them open, and people in the White House was getting Nixon was getting scared, and he looked to the butcher of Cambodia, what's his name, and he died recently. Sad because he wasn't brought to justice, but he was like they were. He looked to him and he was just like he was terrified of what was to come. And Chris Hedges is like, that's where we want the people of power, people in power. That we want them afraid of us. That's when we are effective. But unfortunately, the Powell Memorandum was written. That's Justice Lewis Powell. He wrote a letter talking about if we don't want these kind of movements to take off anymore, we have to control the media. We have to control their education system. We have to control every facet of information that they get into their minds. And we have to demonize all of these movements. We have to squash them early. So they amplify shit like the COINTELPRO program, did everything to squash all civil disobedience. And that's where we are now. People are so dumb, like they just started thanking their corporate masters for the crumbs that they have. But not I, said the cat. That's why we need confiscation day. Not take back not only the resources, but take back our power. Thailand has recreational marijuana. There's change, but it isn't just the front. Well, Thailand has a lot of stuff. I heard some horror stories from military people in Thailand, but that's another video. I was working at Amazon during the trucker strike. Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know which Amazon you were working at. There's been some unionization of Amazon, progress in some ways, but then, they still do all kinds of shit with the government. That's why, we need to confiscate a lot of their the people at the tops shit, not the workers. I've done some work for them too. I was working at anywho, internet. Before my battery dies off, I want to thank you guys for showing up, and I'll try to do this more often. Second time this week. That's a lot more than the past month or so. Confiscation of what? Confiscation of the theft, the wealth that's been stolen. We were talking confiscation day. If you just showed up before my battery dies out, the idea is that we go into the generational wealth holding slaver class, and we steal their shit back because they stole it from us. We're just confiscating what's rightfully ours. And then we bring them to justice by sending them to a third world country. There's been mention of them becoming Uber Eats delivery drivers in Gaza or the West Bank. Maybe they can be like fill potholes out there. Send them to an Iranian prison. They could be a Venezuelan mariachi dancer. Just send them to a place that they've destroyed and profited from, and let them decide the kind of justice that they want to bring to them. It's also a way of building a rapport with the countries that may want to destroy us because of the psychopaths who have been in charge. We send them the psychopaths like we ain't got no love for them. I don't love Joe Biden. I don't love Donald Trump, Kamala Harris, Barack Obama. Like you can have them. Just put us in bricks. We're trying to get off the slave trader currency. So that's the goal for confiscation day. Send the slave traders off to a third world country, get off the slave trader currency, and build something beautiful. Many early nights during the 200,000 people lost their jobs. Yes, machines can do it, they say, but they need a person to work on the robot. And this is the man. Okay, this y'all gonna get me lost in the sauce, but all of the people who create the machines, who create the AI, they're not the people who are patenting it. So I've talked to the creators of the machines and the AI. Uh, Many of them come from the shithole countries that we make fun of when we talk about, like, oh, they're stupid, they're illiterate, they don't know this, they don't know, but they are the ones who create it. And you know, you got your people who are profiting off of it. People like Bill Gates never created shit in his life. Garbage human being. But he gets noted for being some genius. I talked to some simps. One of my I had multiple exes who would simp for that kind of shit. Like if he wouldn't make it, he earned the money. Why shouldn't he decide what to do with it? Because he didn't earn it. You don't earn $100 billion. You steal it. So let's steal it back. Confiscation day. What do you lay claim to? I lay claim to revolution. Slaver class. Where are they? I mean, depending on where you are, you got a billionaire. There's a high concentration of them in the LA. I mean, they're in the Bay Area too. But the Bay, you know, I'm a little biased because I'm from the Bay. I know we got some slavers out there, mostly now, or not mostly. I mean, I dealt with some in Napa, Sonoma. Uh, what is the? It was first place I ever saw a fucking Ferrari was Dublin, uh, Contra Costa County in general. I mean, it's numerous. We just talking about families that just got that kind of bread where they don't have to work. They could just buy up politicians and they tell you to pull yourself up by your bootstraps as they rob you. Those people, uppity enslavers, uppity uh, worthless um, enslaver class. But yeah, I'm talking about the workers' knowledge shouldn't be judged off of IQ tests. That just show how you understand how to take a test. Well, yeah. Well, it's a lot to get into, and like I said before, I'm well over an hour. I'm surprised how fucking Instagram used to cut me off at the 1 hour mark. But yeah, I appreciate you guys showing up, and like I said, I'm gonna get back on, uh, and sooner than later. So I'll holler at you guys, and don't forget to be good to each other. Peace.